Happy hump day. It's the middle of the week. What's going on, everyone? It's your girl, Miss Sophia, the Diva, and I'm hopping on here for a hot, brief minute. It will be hot because, baby, I need to go to bed because I got to get up early because, chat, I got some reviews I've got to get done before 5 o'clock tomorrow. So, anyways, I will be up early trying to get those done for work because I just started my job and I hate to be messing up after 2 months. But yeah. So, anyways, but the system has gone down. I thought ours stayed up a little bit later, but apparently not. So I can't do anything right now. So I figured I'd hop on here for a quick chat. So yesterday, Ghislaine Maxwell, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors. On top of that, R. Kelly today was sentenced to 30 years in one of 3 cases. He has another federal case out of Chicago, in the Chicago's jurisdiction, and then he also has another case pending in Minnesota. Many people are asking, will these sentences be consecutive or concurrent? Concurrent means they'll run at the same time, but if it's consecutive, that means that he must complete each sentence in order to move on to the next. Especially under federal courts, they may be merciful. His attorneys did ask today for the judge to be a little bit more lenient in his sentencing because it was determined that for many, many years, R. Kelly suffered at the hands of his sister sexual abuse. I'm all for providing in defense cases, mitigating circumstances, but in this case, this stuff went on for over 30 years. Everyone knew about it. We knew about it particularly because it all came out when we found out he had married Aaliyah at 15, and then they tried to justify it by saying he thought she was pregnant by him, so he decided to try to marry her. Many stans will be upset. It's very hard, and I show grace to those who still want to stand by their man, R. Kelly. It's hard to separate the artist from the egregious acts that he's done against minors. And he wasn't alone in any of this. He had co-conspirators. I don't know why they're not being prosecuted. Perhaps maybe later on they will reach back and prosecute these individuals who helped him. Because even his ex-wife said he had to have had some help because he's illiterate. It's not like he could have booked these flights and hotels and stuff all on his own. It's very unfortunate. And I was telling someone, I said, if you notice throughout history with talent, a lot of talent tends to be tortured souls that have a lot of traumas that went on, and they tend to do things that, are not normal. David Ruffin apparently had an interesting childhood. I mean, he beat every woman he ever got with. James Brown had an interesting background. He grew up around a whorehouse, I believe it was. So he had some interesting proclivities, and he was abusive. Ike Turner, who else? I'm trying to think. There was someone else that just jumped in. But there's a list of people that have done some things that you just looking at them like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Well, if you look back in their childhood, 9 times out of 10, it's probably because something happened to them. And once they got famous, instead of people getting them the help or being surrounded by people that could actually get him help, here's where we are. He's being sentenced to 30 years in prison. I don't know what the other guidelines are going to be for the other cases. Let's see. He declined to speak in court today because his lawyers cited pending cases. A second federal trial in Illinois is slated to begin on August 15th, and separate criminal charges in Minnesota. The charges include child pornography and obstruction of justice. R. Kelly was found guilty, and this is from NPR News, NPR.org. Last year, Kelly was found guilty of charges including sexual exploitation of a child, racketeering, bribery, and sex trafficking. Now, what I find interesting about racketeering is this: where are his co-conspirators? Where they at? Because you got to have more than one person in a racketeering case. You can't just be out here doing it by yourself. Where they at? Renee said, let's talk about it. And also, Renee, I also spoke briefly about, I understand that a lot of his stans are going to be upset. Like, I had someone on Twitter was like, they just trying to tear down a black man. No, the black man tore his own self down. Okay. He tore his own self down. He knew what he was doing. If being prosecuted the first time for peeing on Sparkle's niece was not enough, I mean, it was a lost cause. It's just been a lost cause. He was going to do what he wanted to do. The arrogance, the hubris, and then on top of that, these parents, y'all knew what R. Kelly was about. Everyone I know, including one of my cousins who grew up in Chicago, she said everybody knew. He would hang out at that McDonald's, flirt, do whatever he had to do. Of course, when you're in high school and you don't have a lot, it's easy to dangle a Dooney and Burke at that time, Dooney and Burke in front of somebody, a Coach bag, a nice bomber jacket, something like that. And then you got him. And then these parents are taking their kids to concerts, to meet R. Kelly, to work with him. And I'm just like, you knew. And even if people get off in court, that don't necessarily mean they're not guilty. That just means the prosecution failed to prove their point. Renee, you wanted a bomber jacket. I know I wanted a bomber jacket, okay? So, hey, Greg, grooming. So, I'm just, all these things that he did to entice these people to want to be with him. And people, in all of these surviving R. Kellys said that they saw it. Now, the white chicks that was on there, they denied it. We didn't see nothing. He would never do anything like that. Remember, Cat Williams said you got to get you some white friends because they'll stand up for you. Okay. Murdered who? My boyfriend got me one and he was, never mind. Okay. Well, I mean, it is what it is. It's easy to get someone because media and these shows created this world where we wanted these things. And I'm grateful that when I grew up, I figured out, oh God, a lot of these people are running these things. It's staged. Some people were actually homeless, as it turns out. But R. Kelly, there can be no doubt that he had a God-given talent to write music, to produce music. But at the same time, because of being sexually assaulted by a neighborhood male and being repeatedly sexually assaulted by his older sister, who is deceased, the man had a gift. He has a gift. He just did too much. He should have gotten help. People should have gotten him help. And we probably would. He should have gotten help. People should have gotten him some help. They should have forced him. But at the end of the day, we live in a world. You met R. Kelly? Oh my God, what was that like? Please, pray tell. Horrible situation. Yes, it is. But what it is, and if you pay attention to the world right now, that's exactly what's going on. Greed. Greed is good in the minds and souls of those who only care about worldly possessions. Greg wants to know, can I ask, why would R. Kelly need to dangle anything? If you know who he is, you know why you're there. Only speaking about the adults. No, I'm just talking about the kids that would come around. after high school. Um, I'm not talking about parents. I'm talking about, when you're a kid, he's hanging out at McDonald's in his Jeep or whatever, and you walk up and he's like, hey, you kind of fly, hey, yo, you want this, you want that. I mean, it's just easy to pull people in. And then even in high school, we had sense enough to know what people were about. But sometimes you just think, oh, he's a really nice guy. No, he's a predator. Uh, all that talent, Alex said, all that talent gone to waste. Renee, I thought his bodyguards were going to tackle you. Oh, girl. I know Stevie Wonder's bodyguards will. I'll tell you that much. I'm talking about the women that accused him of what they were like holding them captive. Oh, no, Greg. I'm talking about going all the way back to the beginning, like when he dropped out of high school and got this record deal at Jive Records. There's a story behind that too, by the way. There was somebody else that should have been in R. Kelly's shoes, and I guarantee he is not a predator. But unfortunately, the record company chose to go with R. Kelly versus this other artist. He's my ex's best friend. So, who is very talented and an excellent songwriter in his own right. But unfortunately, they chose to go with R. Kelly. Probably wouldn't have gotten any good gospel hits from him, but we would have definitely got. And that's the other thing, you could tell that he was conflicted. He always talked about God and his relationship with God, and he just couldn't get right. Alex said the parents knew what they were doing to hold them accountable. They did. They knowingly and willingly offered up their children as a sacrifice for fame and fortune. They did. Now, Greg, as for the women, they just, it's something. Okay. Although Patton Oswalt will tell you the Bible isn't real, and that I wonder if he even believes that God is real at this point. He said some very fucked up shit today, and I was very offended. I said, I bet you were praying to God when your wife died. He says that the Bible is full of myths. What did he say? In My Little Pony and some other crazy shit. And I was just like, you know what? If you read the Bible and you know God, you know better. But let me get off of that real quick. But he was very conflicted. Yeah, he was very conflicted. And I think that he battled those demons and the demons won. That was the thorn in his side. But I think that they should have gotten him some help. They should have taken him, as we like to say, offline. He should have went to a rehab center. He obviously has a sex addiction. He obviously has some proclivities that are not normal. If you see a 14, 15-year-old girl as something you should be doing and possessing and controlling, something is terribly wrong with you. And we know others have done it throughout history, although permissions, from my understanding, were granted when we think of Elvis Presley in that sense. And, yeah. Oh, yeah, I just thought about somebody. Phil Spector. Something was thrown off about him, too. He always wanted to beat people and shoot them and kill them. I don't know. The most dangerous game. I don't know what the hell was going on with him. But in the end, R. Kelly now faces 30 years as it stands now. 30. I don't know what the sentencing guidelines are for the other federal case that's here in that's coming up here in August in Chicago. And I don't know what the state case is based in Minnesota. I don't know what that sentencing guideline will be. But like I said, if they choose not to allow him to, if the two different federal jurisdictions and the state jurisdiction cannot agree to allow him to serve those sentences, whatever they may be. Now, for all we know, in the Chicago case, he could get, acquitted. We don't know. Minister, same thing. Anything is possible, but at the same time, he's where he needs to be. I do hope he's taking advantage of any treatment and group therapy that they're offering there, and I hope he can see the error of his ways. Greg, my issue with what Patton Oswalt said is that it was a mockery. And you shouldn't be mocking other people's religion. I'm going to stand up just like anyone else would stand up for their own culture or their own religion. I'm pretty sure Buddhists would not be happy to hear him say something about their beliefs. I'm pretty sure Muslims would not be. I'm pretty sure that anyone who has a practicing faith would not be happy to hear those things. I don't care if people don't believe in the Bible, but you don't have to make a mockery of it. And that's what offended me. And I'm entitled to be offended as a Christian. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to leave it at that. And be done. I had a real problem because I'm like, and I don't know, is Patton Oswalt, if he's Jewish, I don't know. But either way, you wouldn't want nobody making fun of your faith or your belief system. That's just me. And I thought it was like, oh, okay, you on one. But we're not here to talk about Patton Oswalt. Anyway, R. Kelly, comment down below. Continue to post your comments. And I'm going to move on to Ghislaine Maxwell. You're going to talk about Ghislaine real quick. If you are watching Starz right now, there is a docu-series that has began. I don't know what day the next episode airs, but excuse my language when I say this because I know I have a number of friends and family, especially my older family members. Ghislaine be giving big dick energy. Okay, that's what she was given. She's been giving it for a long time. She's the baby of 9 children, I believe it was. And she was daddy's girl, and her daddy was an asshole. Okay, so she probably was mimicking whatever it was that he did. And she was very, very sexual, which thus made it easy for her to do what she did after Jeff Epstein got hold of her. Okay. She got sentenced to 20 years. She is currently age 60. That means she'll be 80 when she gets out. And she also got 5 years of probation. What was she guilty of? Well, according to justice.gov, the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors. She was sentenced in a Manhattan federal court by United States Circuit Court Judge Allison J. Nathan to 240 months in prison for her role in a scheme to sexual exploit and abuse multiple minor girls with Jeff Epstein over the course of a decade. And she groomed them. And how she did it was she pretended to be concerned about these impoverished young ladies. Many of them came from West Palm Beach. If any of you all have been to Florida, as I spent a few months down there for work, I would fly into West Palm Beach. I would stay in West Palm Beach. And then in the mornings, I would get up and drive to my office in Palm Beach, or the island, as they call it. Very nice and an excellent view of the ocean. And if you are in West Palm Beach, some parts of it are questionable. Even my coworkers, even my coworkers would be like, oh my God, you went over there and did what? Listen, y'all can be set up here and be scared and stay in your nice little posh neighborhoods. But look, I went to go look for some good Cuban food. And so I found some over here in the hood. So there you go. A lot of the girls also recruited their friends. They did. And that's what happens in a lot of these situations. The abused becomes the abuser, or it's a vicious cycle. Now, Ghislaine, what happened to her is that her father was very wealthy, or seemingly wealthy, but made some bad business I can't talk. Made some bad business decisions, and thus, when he died, she was the poor little rich girl, so to speak. And so she kind of, got these sponsorships, and then Jeff came along and was able to provide food, fun, and shelter. Okay, and provide her the lifestyle that she was accustomed to. And some kind of way, he ended up getting her to start bringing him girls, like a moth to the flame, And, it would be something as simple as kind of like being a mentor, I guess. And then it just went from there. They said that she assisted, facilitated, and participated in Epstein's abuse. Stuart, I know you were on here. Just you can fall asleep to the sweet tunes of my voice, Stuart. She would befriend certain victims by asking them about their lives, their school, and their families, and taking them to movies or shopping trips. A lot of these girls had been underexposed. They had never had that type of lifestyle, and so it was easy to get someone like that, and what he really preyed on, if you watch the other documentaries that are out there, because Discovery has them. I mean, it's so many out there on Epstein, and Ghislaine, but a lot of these girls had low self-esteem. They were in abusive situations at home, and it was an escape. And they went from one predator to the other in some cases. As Greg pointed out, some of them were recruited by their little girlfriend. Girl, come on over here. We having a good time. It's a party. One of my friends commented earlier on the post that I made showing that two big sexual predators, R. Kelly and Ghislaine, had been sentenced in this past week. And she pointed out, is 20 years really enough for Ghislaine? Honestly, 30 years is enough for R. Kelly because he's not healthy. Ghislaine, I don't know. Hell, I don't know how old her mama was when she died. Is her mama still alive? Either way, it's just very sad that you thought that this was okay. Oh, and my friend Rachel, she said that she should give up that black book. I thought they had the black book, but I don't know. But I'm going to just say this. If she makes it to 20 years in prison and gets out, it would shock the hell out of me. It would shock the hell out of me if she even survived the first year. She knows too much. There's too many people at the top. There's too many people, the powers that be, that she knows too much. Jeff Epstein, to this day, you cannot convince me that he committed suicide. He had some help. And if it happens to her, we'll know. Nobody wants their dirty secrets to get out like that. Stop doing the shit if you don't want it out there. Just stop doing it. But it's a sin and a shame that there are countless other women, boys and girls. I mean, people are being sexually abused right now in this very moment. Being sex trafficked, being snatched from hotels, being snatched off the street, any and everywhere you can think of. Because there are people who prey upon the weak. And Ghislaine will have to pay for her sins. She got away with it for as long as possible. It is unfortunate that she has to do it alone because Jeff should be here. But again, he knew too much. And so they had to get rid of him. I would be curious to see as things progress if any of R. Kelly's co-conspirators will be prosecuted. Because they should be. Y'all helped him. Who was booking them flights? Who was making the phone calls and arrangements? Who was in the studio who saw all this shit go on? Again, his wife said his ass can't read. His ex-wife said he can't read. So somebody had to be helping him. You know, yeah, he's the main one who may have performed the acts, but there are many people who turned a blind eye and were complicit in helping. So, I ain't no way. Ain't no way. You couldn't buy my silence. I'm telling your ass, pervert. But of course, you know, ain't no telling who he paid off in the Chicago Police Department, because they knew about it too and allowed it to go on for years. For years. God rest Aaliyah's soul. Poor child didn't even know she'd gone through all that at such an early age. I mean, you know, we heard about it, but I think I was in high school when that story came out. And I was shocked, but you know, it just didn't register. You know, I'm like in high school. I'm like, but it's Aaliyah. Yeah. I really can't even listen to that album that he did with her. I love her. Y'all know I was I am a big Aaliyah fan, even in death. But I think that's all I want to talk about. I'll probably get back on here because I want to talk about, I talked about Roe versus Wade. That's up on my YouTube. At this point, I'm just over fighting with these people. I'm just going to have to... I hope y'all vote in y'all's local elections. That's all I'm saying, because that's where it's going to have to happen, your local and state elections. And I don't know what happened to Texas. Ooh, Lord. I can't go back. People, when you coming back home? I can't come back home. In some respects, it never really was home to begin with. I was born in Mississippi. That was the most home that it felt like to me, and that's not any better, but at least we knew what they were about. Like I tell people, I grew up in Texas during the time of, rest her soul, Governor Ann Richards, the Bushes. It was never like this. Never like this. People were polite and professional. And you know, some people, I saw where my friend had posted that some people had turned from church and from the faith because of people like the Republicans who tout that they believe in Jesus and the Bible and God and all of this, and yet they weaponize it more than they use it to do what the Bible tells you to do, which is love and not judge. You have to meet people where they are. When Jesus came, he came to fulfill the law. He did not come that you would continue to live in the dark ages. But, you know, unfortunately, they don't get that part either. And that's why I keep telling people all the time, because that's one of the number one issues that we've talked about, is the fact that the reason why so many people vote, particularly people who are of the Catholic faith, will vote Republican because, you know, they tout themselves to be the party of pro-life and you know, all of this. But the thing is, though, if you look at the grand scheme of things, you truly are a sheep when it comes to that, because if you look at it, when a child gets here, they make it very difficult for people who need help to take care of the children. They have set up these financial guidelines that tell you make too much money when you know you don't make enough money to cover child care, to cover basic needs of the child. I mean, thank God for the grace of God, in my opinion, that some of us are still standing and made it healthy and whole, because they don't. GOP does not spell G-O-D, people. That's all I'm saying. And honestly, with any party at this point, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go with the lesser of the evil. And if someone is in one party or the other, that's the lesser of the evil. That's who I'm voting for. But I tell you another thing. You know, jury trials are important. Stop shirking and jiving with jury duty. Do your civic duty. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Just do it. If your job giving you a hard time, or they don't want to pay you for it or whatever, shit, temporarily go apply for some government assistance or something is what I'm saying. Hell. Because I don't know how it works. I don't know. All I know is that every time I've had to go to jury duty, all I had to do was fill out paperwork and put on my time card, and I still got my salary because I've been salaried for 15 years. And then some, if I think about it. So, y'all just need to start paying attention to your local elections. This is how we got here. Because everybody wants to pay attention to we got to vote for the president. President's figurehead. At the end of the day, that's why we have a bicameral government. These legislators get in there and they have all the power. Now, the president does have some powers with the executive orders that he can. That's what Joe Biden needs to start doing, is drafting some executive orders. But at the end of the day, let us not forget that the Constitution delegates through the 10th Amendment certain powers to the state. And, the state can determine, your medical determination. I said I did not know that we were an insurance company now, but okay. I still say that there's a way around that legally. But it's up to you. I understand, it's very unfortunate that people, a lot of the states I noticed have written in where if you're carrying a child that's a victim of sexual assault or whatever, the question becomes the miscarriages that don't pass and the ectopic pregnancies, which are those babies that sit outside the uterus. The child cannot survive and it will kill the mother. They're not even merciful for some of those either. Some states are, some states aren't. And, some of the federal judges are stopping some of these that automatically, the springing rules that they already had in place, if in fact the Supreme Court ruled in their favor, which it did. So we'll see how it goes. As many people have said, part of it is also part of population increase because of the percentage of people who are actually getting them versus those who are not. Fear of becoming the minority. But the truth of the matter is you already were the minority because if you look around all the surrounding continents, most people have melanin pigmentation. They do. So it's just that some choose not to acknowledge their heritage at times. That's a subject matter from another day. But I'm going to get off of here. I do pray for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and R. Kelly and his co-conspirators. I do hope that at some point they are all brought to justice. It is unfortunate that a man of such gifts could not see that he needed help, and the people around him could not even pause the money train to allow him that time to heal and get help from his childhood traumas. Ghislaine was just a greedy bitch, for lack of a better term. That's all she was. She was a greedy bitch. She was accustomed to a lifestyle and being raised that wealthy and privileged. She just did Jeffrey Epstein's bidding so she could continue to enjoy that lifestyle. So she's 60 now. I hope she sees the light and sees the damage that she's done. I'm not sure if she ever apologized to the victims in court, but, Godspeed to her, prayers up for her and her feeble mind, and just, that's all we can do. But again, I'm going to bed because I got to get up in the morning. Unfortunately, I hate being the new kid on the block, but it's going to work out. I just feel like I should be more up to speed, but as everyone has told me, stop being an overachiever when it comes to stuff like that. I'm trying. But y'all take care and have a great night. I have been Miss Sophia the Diva. Good night.